Let's talk about women in leadership, women in AI.
There are more white men called John as CEOs than there are women. This morning, when I started work at 9 o'clock in the morning, I'd already lived a life.
Is it actually okay for us to force mothers and women into the world of work?
Men are forced to go out. And so shouldn't men have the option to stay at home with the kids if they want to?
Do women actually want men that don't work? 3 out of my 4 friends couldn't have children because they focused on their career.
We saw a magazine cover page where 20 faces were hailed as being the face of AI, and the woman is missing.
So how do we get women into leadership? Maybe men on average are prepared to sacrifice everything. Maybe men have those traits that women don't.
The idea of sacrifice, is that healthy? Does that make your business better?
Is it that we are ignoring that side and only focus on FTSE 500 because they're creating more value?
They're creating their own businesses to fit around their other responsibilities.
You refer to the push and pull model, where the economic push in certain places is making it a difficult choice for the women.
We're so far, we haven't moved at all. Progress is so slow that media, the cover of the 20 leaders in AI that were all men, somebody thought that was normal. Women are just as good as men, and their ideas are just as good as ideas from men.
Welcome to the Reframe Lab, where conversations shape perspectives. Our aim is to uncover critical and hidden aspects that are changing the businesses and the enterprises in today's world.
Dr. Heather, thank you so much for joining us today. Let's talk about women in leadership, women in AI. I've found a few very interesting numbers. We have around about 9 CEOs leading FTSE 100. That's in the UK. The number of CEOs leading AI companies around the world range between 10 to 15%. And the success rate of women founders closing a round of investment and achieving VC money is very, very low. And I found a statistic here based in the Gulf of less than 1%. It was actually 0.5%. What's happening?
Well, thank you so much. I think that's a really interesting observation. My name's Dr. Heather Jeffery, and I'm an associate professor at the University of Birmingham here in Dubai. I've been researching women in representation since around 2013, which was when I started my PhD research. And since then, I've researched a whole load of different areas, including AI, tourism, hospitality, women in the home, and how women are represented. So I think that's a very interesting observation. And actually, there's a really famous anecdote that there are more white men called John as CEOs than there are women globally. And I think it's true. And it's so complicated. And there are so many different reasons why we don't see more women in those roles. I think we can talk about society's biases and stereotypes around what women should be doing with their time, what a leader looks like, what kind of a body a leader should be in, and what kind of characteristics they should display as well. But also, I think that we can't talk about this without talking about the additional burdens that women have in the domestic sphere. What we've seen, I suppose, if we talk about the UK and Europe, is that since the Second World War, more and more women have entered the paid labour force. And we are succeeding and we're doing very well. What hasn't happened is men taking on more of a role at home. And so, in fact, women are doing a double shift, a double day. They're going out, they're working, they're coming home and they're working. And obviously one of their roles gets paid, the other one, depending on the family situation, doesn't. And I think that as a mum myself, that's exhausting. I am so tired. This morning when I started work at 9 o'clock in the morning, I'd already lived a life. I was woken up abruptly. I had to convince somebody to get dressed. I had to convince somebody to eat breakfast. I had to plan out their day, make them a snack, do this, do that, do the other, and finally get myself ready for work and get myself in the car. To some extent, men do not have those same responsibilities. I'm not talking about all men. Some men are standing up and starting to do more in the home, but statistically speaking, on average, it's women who are bearing the brunt of that. And I think also, if we're to talk about equal parenting and parenting, we should also talk about how organisations deal with this. So in the UK, I think 1 in 5 men that ask for flexible working are responded to with, "Where is your wife?" This isn't okay. It's not moving with the times, and it's...
So let's talk about that moving with the times. Is it actually okay for us to force mothers and women into the world of work? Why do they have to work? Can't they just be what there are so many women out there that actually don't want to work. And because society has created, so in the West, it is obviously a need. It is no longer a choice. It is a need because you can't pay the mortgage if you don't have 2 incomes. So are we risking pushing that type of ideology onto the Gulf, where at the moment women have nannies, they don't have to go to work, and they enjoy being with their children?
So I think that's a really interesting point. And I think definitely you're right. In many countries like the UK, you can't afford to have one person not work and stay at home. It's just impossible these days. It's also impossible to have 2 parents going to work because there isn't affordable childcare, which is a major issue. Here, we do have affordable childcare, thank goodness, and lots of women and men benefit from being able to tap into that and have that additional support. Is anybody forcing women to go out and get a job here? If we think about the expatriate community, I definitely don't think that's the case. I don't think any women are being forced to go out and get a job. I know many women who have come to the UAE as a trailing spouse. They had a job in their home country and they're actively seeking employment because they want to work. So I think that's something quite different.
And in Saudi, we know there's been a big shift, and they are encouraging women to go to work.
But that's the local population. So I think that's slightly different. Now, if we look at the UAE, the local population makes up around 20% of the overall population. There's a big push for Emiratization. Of course, the country's key businesses and key public sector organizations should be in the hands of competent Emiratis. It makes total sense that would be the case. I think because the numbers of locals are so small, then there is a necessity to have Emirati women join the workforce. There is a kind of national necessity for that, in the same way that after this or during the Second World War in the UK, there was a necessity for women to go to work. Yeah. Should people be forced to do something that they don't want to do? No. Are men forced to go out and earn and bring home the money? Does society force them to do it? Because perhaps we could flip the argument on the head and say, well, men are forced to go out. And so shouldn't men have the option to stay at home with the kids if they want to?
So based on research, what does the research show?
On what?
On the fact that, so do men want to work? Do women actually want men that don't work? Because we know the research shows that women want a provider. They don't want men receiving less salary than they do, because they know that women have to produce babies. They want to produce babies. So
I think these are massive generalizations. Not all women want to have babies. There is some research coming out of the dating apps. So how reliable that is, I'm not 100% sure, that shows that women want a man who's over 6 foot tall, super strong, wonderful physique. And yes, he's a millionaire. And many women are remaining single because they can't find those men.
There is a lot of research that does suggest that, though.
Women are staying single because they can't find men that meet their standards.
Because now that women want, obviously, a career, they want careers, so they're not having children. So our population is in decline if you look at Europe. So there are implications to, pushing women into, I suppose, a career is important. I'm a career woman. I have children. I actually remember crying when I had to leave my child, and because I have to go to work. I didn't want to leave my child, but I had to work. So I just think we do run a risk of molding a society that we think is fair, but it is against nature. What would you say to that?
Against nature.
Yeah, against nature in the sense that women want to have babies. They do. That is a fact. Most women, not all women. There's always going to be
not all women want to have babies. Not all women want to have babies. Not all men want to have babies. Not all women can have babies.
But the majority. So if we look at the majority, if we look at a population, there are extremes, but we can agree that the majority of women actually do want to have children, and they don't realize that until later on in their 30s, because they're focused on their careers and they're sold, a career, having a career is important. And then when they reach 30, what is happening now across Europe and the UK, many women can't have children. So
30 is a bit young for not being able to have children. Yeah. Okay, so I think, fertility, and I'm not a fertility specialist, but it doesn't really start to drop off until after your mid-30s. So
actually, speaking to a guy, I spoke to a gynecologist the other day I have a couple of friends. We graduated at the same year. 3 out of my 4 friends couldn't have children because they focused on their career, and only one recently had a twins actually, and she had to. It wasn't natural.
This is anecdotal, and
the data shows that we are having problems with conceiving, and the data shows that we're having children later.
We are having children later, and many people are deciding not to have children at all. And you're right, some people are waiting so long and they don't make up their mind over whether they want to or not because they have a career. So they are leaving it too late, because obviously after 40 it gets much harder to conceive. Not impossible, but much harder. So I think you spoke briefly about, we spoke briefly about local populations versus expatriate populations. And I think that there's something really interesting that the government is doing so well here. So they are encouraging all Emiratis into employment, and they're encouraging Emiratization, but they're also creating environments where everybody can thrive. So we see so many policies like working from home, flexible working, being able to take a half day on a Friday, children having a half day at school. These family-friendly policies, I think, are really setting people up to be able to do everything. And I think that part of, historically women have been sold that idea, you can do it all, you can have it all. Well, you can't. You can't.
So Heather, I've taken my time to step in. I'm outnumbered here. But just building upon that idea, we saw a magazine cover page where 20 faces were hailed as being the face of AI, and the woman is missing. And then they come back
2 days later, I think.
3-4 days later,
yeah.
With the same kind of page for women, after I think they saw the backlash on it. But the real question here is, if I go to Google right now and Google top tech leaders, it shows me, I Googled 10 top tech leaders. It gave me 18 leaders, only 3 women. So there are a lot of things that you're referring which contribute to that. Is there an AI algorithm bias as well? Is it that we are in this tech generation creating biased algorithms which would have a massive impact?
Yeah, of course we are. So I think statistically speaking, around 26% of people in AI right now are women. Historically, I think that women have played a really key role in computer programming, in the creation of the large language models and natural language processing. So, for example, I think just a couple of days ago, it was Ada Lovelace Day, and she's often cited as the first computer programmer. So women have had an influence. At the moment, we are at around 26%. This does have a massive impact on the future of the world because AI, as we know it right now, is getting stronger and better and faster and more intelligent. And a lot of people are talking about super intelligence. And if it doesn't have women playing an equal role in its creation, then it will have the same biases embedded within it that society does.
So how do we get women into leadership? And so I'm as a co-founder of a renewable energy company, I mean, I absolutely I believe in women in going into leadership roles. It's very important to really have a say when it comes to decision making. But I also know that a lot of women don't want to be leaders. But let's now just focus on women who choose to be leaders and want to be leaders. What kind of skills do they have in comparison? Do they have different skills and different traits to men? Maybe men have, skills suited for leadership, and that's why not many women go into leadership roles. Or is it because men want to and can sacrifice everything to be a leader? And anyone, and I know we've got a lot of listeners who are CEOs of companies, are founders, co-founders. They are leaders, they are revolutionists, and they will know, as much as I know, you sacrifice and you are prepared to sacrifice everything. You're prepared for it. But, maybe men on average are prepared to sacrifice everything. Maybe men have those traits that women don't, and that's why they're so successful.
So this is a really complicated area to unpack. I think that there's a lot of research that shows that the female and the male brain is no different. Okay, and that gradually over the years we're perhaps socialized into different roles and to have different traits. I would argue that quite often the same qualities that we see in a male leader, we would describe differently if we saw them from a female leader. So, for example, assertiveness. If we have a male leader, he's assertive. But if it's a female leader, we would say, she's aggressive. So I think the way that we view men and women is very different in society. And the kind of roles that we expect men and women to play is very different. The idea of sacrifice, is that healthy? Does that make your business better? The fact that you're willing to sacrifice anything? Or would actually having really clear values and really clear boundaries and respecting things like well-being for yourself as much as your employees, would that not create a better business?
No. It may work for people who don't want to be leaders and revolutionists. We're talking about leaders leading globally. There is no time to, the world to think, yes, well-being is very important, but I believe, and also in that circle of entrepreneurs, they would probably say there's no time for it. I would have to sacrifice it because it's brutal. The world is brutal.
It is really brutal. And the realities are very harsh when it comes to entrepreneurship. It's not an easy journey.
You will have co-founders who will want to take you out. Co-founders that you've been with for years and years who'll want to remove you. And maybe, there's a loop in the contract. How brutal is that? And it happens all the time. It happens when you have takeovers. And so and that is the reality. A lot of women may not want that,
But the fact is that, we often quote the FTSE 500 companies not having enough representation. The reality is that we have millions of women entrepreneurs, mompreneurs, as we were talking before. So is it that we are ignoring that side and only focus on FTSE 500 because they're creating more value? It's just about how you see the picture, which face you're seeing.
So I think these days there's more and more emphasis on startups, innovation, entrepreneurship than there ever has been before, because I think it's really key and important that that people understand that there might not be a job for them.
Yeah.
So they're starting to create their own jobs. Mumpreneurs are really interesting. They're creating their own businesses to fit around their other responsibilities. And I think that's absolutely wonderful. And they're creating an environment that allows them to have well-being. And I think, again, there's a lot of research out there in personal performance and how important it is that you get a good night's sleep, that you eat well, that you exercise, and that you have downtime in order to be able to perform better and be a better leader.
Yes, yeah.
So just coming back to this idea, Heather, your research is in women representation. Over the years, we have seen the role of women changing from just being a media representation in the media to being represented in tech, to being represented in STEM. How you're seeing that shift, in particular, when you referenced Saudi and UAE and the global landscape here, you referred to the push and pull model, where the economic push in certain places is making it a difficult choice for the women. They don't have an option but to go for it, versus the pull, where the women would want to do this.
Yeah, I think that, and we're seeing that really well when we think about the mumpreneurs, right? So they're choosing something that they want to do. I think, especially in the UAE, they're finding a niche, an area where they have something to contribute, and they're really focusing on that. So I think that here, again, nobody's being forced into work. I think it's definitely a choice. If we think about women's representation in tech, in STEM, and in a whole variety of different industries, numerical representation, we're so far, like we haven't moved at all. Progress is so slow. So I remember I spoke briefly before that I wrote an article for the Huffington Post in, I think, 2015 about women in STEM. At the time, there was a very big professor that made some extremely sexist comments to some students in the UK. I think he was eventually sacked from the university.
What were those comments?
Oh, I'll have to tell you later. I'm not sure we can put it on air. But yeah, terrible. I don't think much has changed at all. So either in numbers or really in the way in which we talk about and talk to women. And that media, the cover of the 20 leaders in AI that were all men. Yeah. Somebody thought that was normal. Somebody thought, well, many people, the person who designed it, the editor, lots of people decided that was okay. And it wasn't flagged as an issue or a problem.
True.
Which shows us that we haven't.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, as a woman, I don't believe it's okay. But let's talk about the change and shift in the landscape with technology, with the introduction of AI. We always talk about these layoffs and people losing their jobs. We need new skills. But I've had a number of conversations with industry leaders, and the skill set now is changing. It's changing. And they're looking there are roles, for example, that will not be able to be, AI is not going to take over, such as relationship building, business partnerships, collaboration. And so they're looking for people with emotional intelligence. Now, people like yourselves and very good-willed people, and a lot of women and feminists are pushing women to become potentially having more masculine skills, such as be more assertive, don't be agreeable. But actually, are we working against them? Because now the world is looking for skills like emotional intelligence. Women score higher when it comes to emotional intelligence.
Yeah, but I think again, I'm when it comes to the brain, I really don't think there's a difference between men and women. So I think that men can equally have and develop their emotional intelligence just the same as women do. Perhaps it's been expected of women over time that they are more compassionate, are more kind, more
But they're
understanding.
mothers, but I don't. So
Fathers should be too.
No, but mothers deliver and hold a baby for 9 months.
Yeah.
There's no men will
What
never
emotional
feel that.
intelligence does that require?
No, it requires. but you're saying sympathy. You're saying sympathy, and that connection. There is an emotional aspect to it.
What about women who adopt?
Women can adopt, but we're talking about the average. There's always going to be.
What about women who don't have kids or who aren't at the age to have kids yet? What about women who have never had kids and have been through the menopause? I mean, all I'm saying is that emotional intelligence, I don't think that it's just for women. I think that men can develop that as well.
Yeah, but they're scoring higher, so why not capitalize on it? That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's a good thing. Why are we not pushing for, supporting and pushing for women and it is great to have those skills.
I think they're a complementary skill set. If you are not going in partnership, then there is a problem with the society. There's a famous quotation, religious quotation from one of the scholars, Ali, who was the cousin of the Prophet. And he has identified 10 traits. If they're in women, they're really good. If they're in men, they're really bad. I don't remember all 10 of them. One of them is trying to be more mindful of their spending habits. If a man is out there doing it, he'll be called miser. But if a woman is doing it, she is good because she manages the household, and it's really good for the home to do that. So likewise, there are 10 skills out there. It's really about the partnership. It's really about working together that would make the societies better.
Do you believe that, though? Let's really have a candid conversation about that. What do you believe?
So I think that there are certain traits and skills that a leader should show now, should show today. And those include things like compassion and empathy. I agree with you that at the moment, probably that's something that women excel at. I don't think that it's something that men can't do. And I think that also some women throughout history, very notable figures, have been particularly bad at it, or at least they've been portrayed as being particularly bad at it.
Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I imagine, right? Which kind of created a very negative stereotype for all women, I suppose, and contributes to this idea that if you're assertive, you're aggressive, and this sort of thing. But yeah, I think that in this day and age, we need more compassionate leaders. Productivity, because of AI, is through the roof. Yeah. We are more productive than we have ever been before. So why are we still demanding that people be in the office 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, or not even 9 to 5? 9 to 7, 9 to 8, 9 to 10,
Are we demanding it though? Is that how is it here in the
private
Gulf?
sector?
I mean, in the UK, flexible working hours have been introduced, and actually there's complaints now because nobody's in the office anymore. Nobody's in the office. But how is it here?
So here I think it really depends if we're talking about public sector or private sector. As I already said, the public sector has some really progressive policies, much more progressive than the UK. Such as the work from home policies, having Friday half day, or in Sharjah, for example, they only have a 4-day work week.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's much more progressive. The private sector, not so much. And I think you just said something really interesting. Nobody's in the office anymore.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people feel like everybody should be in the office because we need to have those water cooler moments.
Yeah.
When was the last time you had a water cooler moment?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I've never had a water cooler moment in my entire career. Great moments, great ideas, great conversations have happened, but not around a water cooler. They've happened because there's been a meeting, because I've met somebody, because I was at a conference.
Yeah.
So I think that we should be measuring outputs and productivity,
True.
not FaceTime.
So
No,
just,
but sorry, can I just
Yeah,
come
please
back
do.
because it's really important. And you're absolutely right when it comes to established people or they know the company, they have the expertise. What I found when speaking to owners of companies, they have a real problem training the younger generation, and Face and Zoom doesn't work. So that is a problem training younger generation, because you learn through interactions. You have to interact, and there's a transfer of knowledge. Now, do you agree?
I mean, yeah, of course. I think that can happen online as well as face to face.
just bringing the debate back to the AI and the tech space, you are a professor at a leading university. You would know it better than others that in a class mixed of students, male and female, females on average score much higher than the males. So you can pick up any statistics or records, you would find the same trend that females are much better in terms of a skill. What is happening then that you only see 30% representation in the faculty in STEM from women?
Yeah.
Where is the problem, Heather?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's really important. Yeah, in this day and age, around half of any classroom at a university is going to be made up of women. Depending on the discipline, it might be more, slightly less. And women outperform men. They definitely do. When it comes to the academic endeavor, they outperform men. And yet, what we do see is that even though women are still going forward for PhDs and doctoral studies, when it comes to getting that first faculty role, there's slightly less. And then when we start to move up the academic hierarchy, it's less and less. Part of this, personally, I believe, because academia is a very flexible job, but research is done in your own time.
Yeah.
Okay. If you want to be a productive researcher, you are going to have to dedicate significant amounts of your weekends, holidays, evenings, everything. And again, I think by the time you've got your PhD, you've entered academia, you're probably early 30s, mid 30s, might decide to have children. You're going to bear the brunt of the childcare and the domestic responsibility and the mental load for the children. And you don't have time to spend on that research, but most men will. And so then I think we really need to think about what we celebrate and how we can even the playing field. And if overworking is
Would
something that we want.
AI improve this?
It could. I mean, there's clear concerns around research integrity. But yes, AI can do lots of tasks much faster than we can.
What are you suggesting? Are you suggesting women use AI?
No. So I was in touch with one of the old school PhDs, and it's like 5 years back. He was at the World Bank. I told him I'm doing a PhD, and he's like, PhD is nothing comparable to the PhD we did. We had to go to the library, pick up a book out, and then spend days and days. Our life was much more easier. And with the impact of AI, I think it's going to further ease up that aspect which you are hinting at, which becomes an impediment.
So I think right now we're in a moment of transition, and the current PhD research dissertation, research paper that we're used to has to change.
True, that's at the verge of disruption. It has. It took me 3 years to publish in a 3-star journal.
Oh yeah,
The data is old, things have moved on. What good is that research?
Completely. Absolutely. But even the skills that we're demanding, I think nowadays critical thinking, it's always been important, but it's even more important.
True.
So I think judging outputs is going to be a key skill that we need to start to grade and measure and look into. Well, did Imran judge these outputs well? Has he done that well? Has he come up with something new?
There's a perception, Heather, when it comes to technology, that men have more control in this space. Do you believe that that's true? Do you see that representation from women is still to pick up especially in the tech space? And why, if it's so?
Yeah, definitely. I think that there are lots of stereotypes around who is good with computers, who is good at maths. And it tends to be men. Men are good at computers, men are good at maths, men are, more logical, women are irrational, women are crazy, women can't do that, they're not good with computers. These are lies.
You were referring that the first coder was a woman in our conversation.
So what's
earlier.
stopping women from entering this field?
So everything that we've just previously been speaking about, including the stereotypes around who is good at this.
True.
There was a whole project getting primary school kids to draw a professor, a scientist. And they keep going back to it year on year. And initially, they all drew men without being prompted, and they all drew men. Yeah. Now, if you can't see yourself doing that career, you're not going to think it's for you.
Okay, so I know from the UK, I live in London, and I see women included everywhere. Wherever you go, you see more women now than men. We actually have a problem with men at the moment. There is a problem with,
Andrew Tate. Can we say that?
Andrew Tate is pushing that narrative, but actually a lot of men are following him because they feel now they've been pushed and not recognized. So actually the tables are turning in the West, and maybe that's not a good thing. But in the UK and in Scandinavian countries as well, we see women are represented almost equally, but they are still choosing the traditional roles. They're choosing the traditional roles. I mean, maybe here in the Gulf, there is, things are moving. But if we look at the UK, if we look at Scandinavian countries, women are not fighting to go into those roles that you think, but they are looking into the traditional roles.
So you mean like a woman is more inclined to become a nurse
or a doctor? So a doctor, most women. So if you look at in medicine, that is dominated. That's a kind of woman field. And when it comes to heavy lifting, machinery, AI, it is a man. There's a lot more men doing it than women. But I really want to know why that is. I am interested to know why that is, and your views and your.
So again, I think that there's if you can't see people like you doing a particular job, then somewhere in the back of your brain, you're going to think that, well, that's not for me. I can't do that. I actually see this with my 5-year-old daughter quite a lot. She'll come home and she'll say, this is for boys. This is for girls. Now, I am the biggest feminist going, so you can imagine that I did not bring up my daughter like that, right?
Absolutely.
And I tried to explain, well, boys can like that, girls can, but they pick up on these things, Also, that job's for boys. Boys play with Lego. Boys play with cars. Girls play with makeup.
But I can come back to you on that. My first daughter, Sarah, today she's studying medicine. She complains all the time that, Mum, I wanted to go to ballet and you stopped me. You took me to this, trainings like those as cadets. You took me to the cadets, and she hated it. She hated it because she wanted to do something feminine, and that is a viewpoint of many that. Why can we not embrace our differences? And actually, where AI is going, women have an opportunity to use their natural instincts, but you wouldn't say it's natural. You would say it's learned.
Probably.
But use those skills. And why are we not teaching and training?
But I think firstly, when it comes to femininity, there's nothing wrong with femininity. I love femininity. Everybody should be able to be feminine. Whether that's displaying emotional intelligence that we might commonly think of as a feminine quality, or my daughter dressing up, in pink sequins and whatever. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with femininity. But femininity shouldn't be a barrier to entering computer science.
No. But where is it? Where is the barrier though? Where is it? So I can't see barriers in the UK across Europe. I don't see, but I personally see a barrier as a co-founder when it comes to investment, because that is the key for real leadership roles, when you can change mindsets and really impose. I mean, have a decision and make a decision and create influence. And I can see the people that hold the funds are men. It's men dominated. And do you think maybe we should focus, instead of these training programs, actually maybe focus and lobby venture capitalists, VC funds, and say, hold on, you should be investing more in women-led organizations. What do you think of that?
Yeah, definitely.
But if we are we actually saying don't worry about the quality? Don't worry about the quality. What?
Of course not. Women are just as good as men.
Yeah.
And their ideas are just as good as ideas from men. We don't fund startups or women-led startups for a variety of reasons. Lots of them are because of how we stereotype women and because of the old boys networks. And
it is the old boys net. It's the boys net.
The interesting thing I want to share here, we were working with Stone Foundation in Philippines, and there was a social project in which women entrepreneurs got funding from the Stone family, and it was an entrepreneurial project. They had to return that funding in about 2 years' time. 2 years later, full funding was returned back. And that's the point they brought us in, and they said there's something wrong, because we were expecting to hit like 30-40% and then 50 to 60% not able to return back the money. So what's happening? We started investigating, and we found out that all the money that was given to these women, they went back, they dig a hole under the earth, put the money in. 2 years later, they brought the money back.
Why?
The main reason is that people, especially in the rural parts, the men would force the women to give the money, so they wanted to protect the money.
I mean, so they couldn't do much.
They couldn't do much. And then there came a realization that they needed a program for female entrepreneurs that could have really helped them to scale up using that money. So it was not about giving the money. It was about giving them a support structure where they have enough support and they are protected within their families, where male cannot dominate a decision and cannot take that money away from them. That was eye-opening. It was
Philippines.
Yeah, Philippines, almost 10 years back.
Wow, misogyny exists everywhere, and it happens. I mean, no matter how kind of we push for equality, and also I personally push and want to embrace women's skills, but misogyny does exist. And
definitely, I mean, you asked why don't we see more women in male dominated areas, and I mentioned that a few years ago there was a professor who's made horrible comments, very sexist comments to female students. That's one of the reasons. Why would you feel like you belong or you're welcome in an industry where you're made to feel that you don't belong?
True.
Yes.
And you're not welcome.
And the unfortunate part is that despite the advances in technology, we have still not been able to address that aspect, which needs a serious look into it.
Yeah, I think so.
So how do you think AI is going to accelerate the balance, the gender balance in particular, across the industries?
So I think one of the key applications that we have some research, some knowledge of in recent years was AI in recruitment.
Oh yes, yeah.
Okay. So in theory, if we embed AI within our recruitment practices, we can reduce our own human biases. There are some cases, I think Vodafone's quite a good case of how they've actually managed to increase diversity in their workforce through using AI. But of course, there were also very famous cases, I think
it's gone
Amazon.
Wrong.
It's
gone wrong.
Who is to be blamed if the algorithms go wrong? Is it the algorithm, the board, the society? Who's to be?
I think it's probably society.
It is data that's been produced by society.
Yeah, and if we had more women in the design maybe it wouldn't happen. If we had more diverse teams.
So how do you advise? I know you run a number of training programs. How do you advise women to become leaders? What skills do they need?
So I think women already have the skills that they need.
Right.
I think sometimes it's about gaining confidence within yourself, learning that actually I already have that skill and I'm good enough. I'm more than enough. I think also sometimes having an official qualification helps, especially when you're attempting to break stereotypes and do something that perhaps isn't expected of you. So obviously having qualifications can open doors and can show people signals. I'm interested in this area. I was interested enough to go out and learn, and I have a qualification. Clearly, I'm pro-education.
So Heather, if you could influence one area or one policy or one cultural norm to improve the representation from women in AI and STEM, what would that be?
That's easy. Equal parenting.
Very good.
Equal parenting.
I would not trust my husband with my baby. I mean, but these are so it is. So I hear that a lot, but the reality is, what mother would trust their husband with a 12-year-old or a 6-month-old baby? I would never have done that, because he'd probably drop my daughter. You know, so these are. So this is but really, that's the reality, though.
We need a training program on that.
How to father. I think this is really interesting. So many years ago, I carried out a research project in Malaysia, and we were looking at maternity protection in the workplace. Maternity protection is about, leave after you give birth. It's about flexible working. It's about a whole range of things. And one of the areas that we approached was paternity leave. And one woman said that to me. She said, why would I want my husband to have paternity leave? Then I'll have 2 babies at home. Yeah. And I said to her, there's one concept I want you to go away and look up, and it's learned incompetence.
Who's gonna
We've
teach
just
them,
spoken
though?
about all of these men leading all of these super amazing companies,
but they're not babies, they're not children. They can't.
If they can do that, they can change a nappy, they can give a bottle, they can figure out, and I think also, I'm a mum and I'm a perfectionist, right? My daughter has to have her protein, her healthy fats, her fruits and her veggies, and if her dad gives her anything that isn't that, I go nuts.
But will he go nuts?
No, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't.
But then he'll tell me, well, I'm not going to do it again because you've just gone crazy, and I thought I was doing a good job. Yeah. And then sometimes I think, does it really matter if she had a jam sandwich for her lunch instead of, a wonderfully homemade spaghetti bolognese with hidden veggies? Does it really matter?
Yeah, a one-off maybe, but every day, yes.
Heather, before we conclude, we'll be failing in our impressions if we do not request you to comment on the digital leadership program for the women, which we are hosting at Birmingham University in Dubai. How is this program different from a normal leadership program?
So I think firstly, this program acknowledges that women don't need to change. So we spoke a lot about femininity, we spoke a lot about female traits, and we're not suggesting that women lean in, become more masculine. That's not part of this program. So we're going to unpack lots of the stereotypes around women and leadership, and start thinking about how we can, in the world that we live in, lead efficiently and effectively, but also how can we lead change? And I think that the change that's coming with the digital environment is really important. So how can you lead through that change? And that's going to be one of the key focuses.
Thank you. I think
Heather, you are our first guest, female guest on this podcast.
Honored.
We are honored to have you. It was absolute pleasure. I was measuring myself very...
it's a hot topic, and it was a pleasure having that conversation. Thank you very much.
No, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.